What is up, guys? Welcome on into Pickswise Playbook, Week 15 edition, presented by our friends at Superbook Sports. I'm Lauren Jabara. That's Jared Smith. That's Tank Williams. I got the pointing right this week.
Let's go.
Week 14. We are getting closer and closer to Christmas season, to the end of the regular season. We have 4 weeks left, which is pretty crazy. Tank, I'm coming to you first. Through 14 weeks, there are some teams that have clinched the postseason. Well, one team that's clinched the postseason. Some teams that are fighting for their spot. How good are you feeling heading into these last 4 weeks of the regular season?
I'm feeling pretty good. I just want to know how the Vikings are feeling, because I felt like after getting disrespected all week long that they would actually have some dog in them, but the Vikings have zero dog in them. Like, the Vikings are that team that if they walked into a room and somebody was talking bad about their mama, they'd probably end up joining in on the jokes, talking about their own damn mama instead of fighting back. Like, I don't know what's up with that squad, but they better get their act together quick if they're going to try to do something in the playoffs.
No dog was shown. They looked more like puppies out there, Jared. And you and I were right on our best bets of the week. The Lions laying the points at home. They're now 5-1 in their last 6 games, and the Lions are feeling pretty good to possibly make the postseason if they win out.
We'll see. Tough game this week against my Jets.
Against his team.
We're not allowed to be
Jets.
friends
Okay.
for the show.
Okay.
Lauren and I, we discussed this earlier in the week. We're being friends for the show, but behind the scenes, we're actually texting each other. We hate you. I hate you. Go Jet. Like, it's getting ugly. I'm about to go to HR. It's really getting ugly.
Do we have another swag bet in order? Do we have a swag
That's
bet?
what I mean. I'm trying to bring the swag bet out of him, but
Lauren is begging me to do a swag bet, Tank. And you know what that means? It's like
we're getting it done by the end of the show. We're getting it done by the end of the show.
Oh, yeah.
It ain't happening. I've
We'll
learned
see
my
what
lesson.
happens.
You fool me once, shame
I know.
on me. Fool me twice. Or fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. I think it's like fool me 5 times. Shame on me. No more shame.
Yeah, absolutely.
Done with the shame.
I tried this morning on our Let's Bet It show.
She has tried.
Tied to this 49ers Seahawks game. I'm laying the 3 points with the 49ers. He's taking the 3.5 with the Seahawks. I'm like, you want to do a swag bet? And he's like, no. So we'll try by the end of the show maybe to get something going on this Lions-Jets game, because I feel like that's a more fun spot to be able to do it. But we do have a lot to get into this week.
Too. So
yeah,
it makes sense.
We do have a lot to get into this week. We'll be talking about that Lions-Jets game. But before we do, NFL season betting stats through 14 weeks. The unders are 114-91. They are hitting at a 55.6% rate this season. Best against the spread teams, the Bengals, 10-3. The Giants and the Lions, 9-4. There's 6 teams also with an 8-5 record against the spread this season. The Bucks, struggling a little bit. ATS, they're 3-9-1. The Chiefs and Bears, 4-8-1 against the spread. Now, before we give out our picks, let's kind of set the scene for the postseason berth position. The Eagles were the first team to clinch a playoff spot in Week 14. Will the Dolphins be able to handle the cold in Buffalo? We'll see. We're going to break that down. Can the Panthers make a run at the NFC South? Right now, they're sitting 1 game behind the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after they lost last week. We'll see. We'll break it all down. But before we do, biggest Week 14 surprises, Tank. I'm coming to you. Besides the Vikings, who was your other biggest Week 14 surprise that you had?
I mean, I feel like the Baker Mayfield narrative has been played out at this point, so I'll go to something else. I'm surprised that Russell Wilson was actually able to cook a meal last week. This dude threw for 3 touchdowns before he got knocked out of the game.
Yeah.
And that was something that really I didn't expect to see, even though you always expect teams that are playing against the Kansas City Chiefs to be able to bounce back a little bit on offense and try to make it a game. I didn't see that, and I'm pretty sure a lot of folks didn't see that coming out of the Denver Broncos. So kudos to Russ.
Absolutely. Kudos to Russ. And hopefully he's doing okay with his getting knocked out, basically. Jared, how about you? Biggest Week 14 surprise? Because you were correct on Baker Mayfield. You said he was going to come out. He was going to have some dog in him, unlike the Minnesota Vikings. And that's exactly what he did. Threw a touchdown with 3 seconds left to get the 1-point win.
Yeah, it was a good week for my quarterback whispering, right? Brock Purdy. That was another gem for us last week. Had a great week. Don't know if he'll fare the same this week, but we'll see. And Baker, I think, ahead of his skis a little bit. Might see some regression this week in frosty Lambeau. And then, of course, Jared Goff, who's looked fantastic over the last month or so. And really, I give a lot of credit to Ben Johnson for that. But my biggest surprise continues to be parity. Troy Vincent, who's one of the I forget his exact position name, but he kind of runs the union and one of the SVPs in the NFL, came out with a report this week and said it's the lowest average score margin since 1932. I mean, these games are razor thin. We've had 14 games land on one, and usually the adage is in the gambling world, you can lay one. Games don't land on one. Well, this year we've already had more games land on one than all of last year and a little bit of 2 years ago combined. So tight margins. I don't want to be laying big numbers. And I expect a lot of these games to land one score or less because that's what we've seen basically all year in the NFL.
I know. It's going to be interesting to see how Week 15 plays out. Some teams, if they win out, they still can clinch a postseason berth in that wild card spot. We will see how things play out. Let's get into some Week 15 key games. To start it out, my Detroit Lions, who still have a shot at the postseason if they win out. They're taking on Jared's New York Jets this week. It's a pick on Lions laying 1 point. That total is set at 44.5. Now, the Lions, they started the season slow, but they're heating up at the right time, right? They beat the 10-2 Minnesota Vikings last week at home, and they did it handily. It wasn't even like, oh, they snuck by and got a win. They crushed them. And now they're 5-1 in their last 6 games. Their only loss, again, was narrowly to the Buffalo Bills on Thanksgiving. Now, the Jets have been consistently, Jared, piling up losses over the last few weeks. They lost to the Bills last week, now dropped 3 of their last 4 games. This is going to be an interesting one because right now the Lions offense is rolling and the Jets defense is playing well. This is going to be the Lions offense going up against the Jets defense. Tank, I'll come to you first. Who do you think comes out on top of this one? Because obviously Jared and I are both a little biased about this game.
Yeah, y'all are biased, and I have no idea who the hell is going to win this game because I really have no idea who the hell is going to quarterback the Jets team, and I believe that's going to be the determining factor. I feel that if Mike White plays, then that Jets offense has enough dog in them to go ahead and go back and forth with a Lions offense that's playing as hot as damn near any team in the NFL. But I'm telling you, I do not trust Zach Wilson. He got bumped up to the number 2 quarterback. If Mike White cannot play, you could tell the way that the offensive players on the Jets respond when they have to talk about Mike White at quarterback and the expectations for going into a game, and how Elijah Moore was ready to just jump off the bus with Zach Wilson at quarterback. So if Mike White plays and he's healthy enough to command that offense, I feel that we're going to get a competitive game. I think that we can probably push that over. I know it's around that key number that Jared looks at, but I think we could probably push some points in this one because I feel like the Lions should be able to score at least a decent amount of points on the Jets defense. But if it's Zach Wilson, I don't know. May have to fade the black.
I know the Lions are averaging 32.2. Wow, that was not a word or a number by any means. They're averaging 32.2 points per game over the last 5 games, which is second to the Dallas Cowboys during that stretch. On the defensive side, they've made some big strides. They're holding the opposite team to 20.3 points per game over the last 6. The first 7 games of the season, they were allowing 32.1 points per game. I look at the Jets, lost 3 of the last 4. But the concerning point is they've been held to 12 points or less in 2 of those 3 losses. Do you think that with the way that the Lions defense has been stepping up and playing better over the last 6 weeks, the Jets will be able to get something going right now, not knowing, just like Tank said, who's going to be in that QB1 position?
Yeah, I think context is key here because those losses that you mentioned where the Jets struggled to score were against the Patriots and the Bills. The Bills game was outdoors in bad weather, and Mike White got his bell rung like 10 different times. So I don't think it's fair to compare the Jets offense as a whole and use those 2 games as kind of the lens. I think we need to look big picture and say that when Mike White plays and he's kept upright, the Jets offense has been pretty effective. And the big reason why I think they can be effective this week is my main man, Zonovan Knight. Can we talk about Zonovan Knight for a minute? Because we were all leaving this Jets. We basically, me included, once Breece Hall went down, that was it. The Jets can't run the ball anymore. Might as well pack it in for the rest of the season. Not so fast, my friend. Listen to some of these numbers I dug up this week. Zonovan Knight's averaging almost 3.5 yards after contact this season. Very small sample, only about 50 carries. But that is more per carry after contact Dalvin Cook, Damian Pierce, Aaron Jones, Miles Sanders, Jonathan Taylor, Kenneth Walker, Christian McCaffrey, Cordell Patterson. You can make a case that Zonovan Knight's getting tougher yards than all of those guys I just mentioned. So that's pretty important, I think, for a Jets offense that's facing a Lions defense this week that's outside the top 20 in every major running metric. So let's say it is Mike White. I think he's going to get one of those numbing injections before the game. I think he's going to be feeling pretty loopy and pretty good.
Toradol shot.
Yeah, he's gonna get one of those little shots before the game, and I think the first half is gonna be good. Maybe
trust me, they work.
Tank, I was gonna ask if you've ever gotten one.
Better than all of them.
By the time you get to the early fourth quarter, halfway through the fourth quarter, that's when you start feeling a little something. But before then, like he's gonna be feeling good, feeling great.
So I think that's the game script here, guys. Right? The Jets come out. Mike White's feeling good. He's got the numbing shot. They're running the ball with Zonovan Knight. They're moving the ball very effectively against this Lions defense. Let's go to the other side of the ball because, listen, you want to talk about a defense that deserves some praise here. The Jets held the Bills to a 34% success rate on offense, 23% rushing success rate, 4 sacks, 18 pressures on Josh Allen. They were in his grill all day. In the second game, where they shut him down in the first game. So the adjustments that were made by Buffalo offensively didn't work. And then you look at what Sauce Gardner did, was only targeted twice, 1 reception for 6 yards. Stephon Diggs was held to his lowest receiving catches and yards of the entire season, 3 for 37. This Jets defense, we are well past fluke at this point. This is a top 10, top 5 bones unit that is coached right now by arguably the best defensive mind in the league and has 2 all-pro corners and a front line that is as good as it gets. Quinnen Williams' status is huge. That knee injury is huge.
There you go.
Yeah, on the Lions side, here's what concerns me on the Lions side. They have played really well over the last 6 weeks, 6-0 against the spread, but the schedule of defenses they face, besides Buffalo, their 1 loss, every other defense outside the top 22 in DVOA, Packers, Bears, Jaguars, Vikings. This is going to be a massive step up in class for Ben Johnson and Jared Goff against arguably the best defense in the league. I wrote up Jets for the site. 2 units on the Jets. I think at 44, I like the over. I agree, Tank. The key number matters here because I think the Jets are going to have success moving the ball and the Lions are going to be chucking it all over the yard. And so to me, 44 seems pretty fair. And I think the Jets with defense win this game.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. Obviously, I'm rooting for my Detroit Lions. Who knows how this is going to work? Okay. But,
put something on it.
Maybe we'll make a swag. Maybe we'll make a swag bet by the end of the show.
What are the terms of said swag bet?
If I win, you have to wear one
of the
like giant lions heads. Like, those like with the fur and the ears and whatever. Okay. Like a full mask. And then you can choose with the Jets. We'll let you marinate on it throughout the show, and then we'll get back to this at the end.
Okay.
But let's move on to the next one. Yeah.
Tank's like sitting here like the devil on both of our shoulders, just like drumming up drama.
I know. I love it. Like just cooking it up. It's my friend. I love that.
I feel the chill.
Talk about the Steelers taking on the Panthers. The Panthers right now laying 3 points. That line was set at 1.5. The totals ticked down 1 point to 37.5. The Steelers fell short last week, barely, against the Ravens, but 3 interceptions by Mitch Trubisky sealed the deal for that. Kenny Pickett went down with a concussion. I don't know if he's going to be playing or not this week, but the Panthers coming off their best win of the year over the Seahawks. Deontay Foreman, Chuba Hubbard combining for 148 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. Before last week, I feel like this was a game with not much meaning. But now after week 14, with Carolina and the Bucs lost, they put them, back in the NFC South title race. They're 1 game behind the Bucs right now for the top spot in the NFC South. The Panthers have 185 rushing yards in each of their last 2 games. Carolina's been playing well on defense too. The Steelers 4-9 straight up in the last 13 away games, Tank. Without knowing who's going to be starting under center, or if it is going to be Mitch Trubisky with the way that he's been playing, do you trust the Steelers going in to Charlotte and playing the Panthers and getting a win, or do you kind of trust the Panthers here in this spot with the way that they've been playing, coming off of that rhythm against the Seattle Seahawks?
LJ, I have trust issues, so I don't trust now one of these teams.
I blame you.
And we don't know who's going to be the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kenny Pickett got in a limited practice yesterday, so he may be trending. I'm not sure how bad his concussion was. We know the ones that look really severe, they're definitely going to miss at least a week. If it wasn't that bad, he may have a chance to play this week, so we'll see. But I'm actually impressed by the Carolina Panthers. Like, Sam Darnold isn't playing sexy ball whatsoever. I mean, just look at the beard. Nothing about that says sexy. But he's not turning the ball over. They're running the ball down teams' throats, and they're finding ways to win. On the flip side, Mike Tomlin is one of the better coaches in the league. He's always going to have his team competitive. They're always going to have a chance down at the end of the game. And so that's why when I'm looking at a -2.5, I'm looking at over under, 37.5. I really don't have a strong lean on either of those, so I'm going to just go ahead and sit this one out. But I think it should be a competitive game because I know Mike T's going to have his squad ready, and the Carolina Panthers have more than almost any other team in the NFC South something to fight for because I believe they probably have the best chance to win that damn division when it's all said and done, which is mind-blowing considering everything that they've gone through, like multiple quarterbacks, firing their head coach, trading away their best player.
Literally.
Man, unbelievable coaching job by Steve Wilkson. Great job by those players rallying with each other and finding a way to win some damn games. Impressive.
Yeah. I feel like the Panthers this year and the turmoil that they've gone to, although not as such a high scale, but it was kind of like the Raiders last season who were still able to get wins, get things done different. They went through a lot last season. The Panthers kind of remind me a little bit of that this year, and they've been playing well. Jared, I feel like this atmosphere in Charlotte is going to be like turned up. They're going to come out firing on all cylinders. They're going to use the crowd to help them. And they're only allowing 6.1 first half points at home this season. I feel like they'll get off to a hot start. Do you trust the Panthers at home?
I do. I wrote up Panthers for the site this week at 2. It's one of my bets of the week. It'll be in the column later tonight into tomorrow. And I think I'll make the case for Carolina and see if I can't get Tank over to my side of the aisle here. So the hottest fire forges the strongest steel, right? Like you're 100% right, Tank. This has been, and Lauren, your comparison to the Raiders was also spot on. Despite all of that, here they are. Their destiny is in their own hands. They have to win 4 games, and they're the NFC South champs. Period, end of story. And if you're Steve Wilkes, talk about a guy that's deserved a second chance. He got a bad rap in Arizona. Totally undeserved. Year 1, gets brought in, terrible situation. They tank, they fire Wilkes, they bring in Kingsbury and Murray, and you've seen what's happened since. Karma. I believe in karma. Steve deserves another chance. He gets it here, and look how his team has responded. I heard Shaq Thompson in an interview this week. I'll give you the quote. "We ride behind Wilkes. He came in here. He's a true alpha. He's a true leader." I mean, he's a defensive guy. And this is a guy that has rallied the troops. Let's talk about this Panthers defense. 3rd in EPA per play during this little stretch where they've put themselves back into contention over the last 4 games, covering all 4 by almost double digits. 3-1 straight up. Their only loss was to the Ravens. And what are we talking about with the Jets? It's such an easy defensive scheme. You have 2 of the best cover corners in the league. C.J. Henderson and J.C. Horn, first-round picks, top 10 picks, anchoring that defense. And then you get Shaq Thompson and Frankie Louvu, who's had an unbelievable season almost from out of nowhere. And the interim defensive coordinator, Al Holcomb, he's not a blitz-happy guy. Carolina's one of the lowest blitz rate teams in the league. But you know this, Tank. The timing of the blitzes are key. For example, last week, Shaq Thompson only blitzed 3 times the whole game. He had 2 pressures and 1 sack. Talk about efficiency. I'm sending my running linebacker to go get the quarterback. Bang, 2 pressures, 1 sack in 3 pass rushing snaps. So, again, I'm seeing some really, really positive things I like for this Carolina team. On offense, they need to run the ball, and the Steelers have struggled, frankly. This is not your vintage Steelers defense. 15th, middle of the road in a lot of the metrics that I look at. TJ Watt's not 100%. He had 22.5 sacks last year. He has 2.5 this year. And it's just when you lose that kind of production, it's hard to keep that edge. And we consider the Steelers defense a very good defense, but I don't think they're at that level that we are used to seeing. I think, again, the movement's pretty telling here. It got to 3. I think Carolina's the right side here. I think they win this game. And I think they might be in first place by the end of the day if Cincinnati beats Tampa. So there's some interesting happenings
fast,
in the NFC
Wouldn't be surprised.
They still have to beat my Detroit Lions next week, but we'll get to that game in week 16. So there's a lot to get into here, a lot to dredge up. But I was saying for the Steelers, it's either Mitch Trubisky or a hobbled Kenny Pickett, which is basically the same thing under center at that point. I mean, I don't really trust Mitch Trubisky at all. The Panthers, they're 8-4-1 against the spread in the first half this year at home, or just in the first half in general. So I feel like also a first half money line bet on the Panthers could also be a good play for this one too. Let's get into the Cowboys taking on the Jaguars right now. The Cowboys laying 4.5 points. That total is set at 47.5. The Cowboys are fighting to get to the top of the NFC East. They barely survived last week over the bottom feeder Houston Texans. It was a goal line stand with a Zeke Elliott touchdown that sealed the deal for them. And then you look at the Jags. They handed the Titans their third straight loss. Trevor Lawrence threw for 368 yards, 3 touchdowns. He looked good. He's been kind of up and down, though, week after week. Like, he had a really good game and then a really bad game in week 13. Then we saw him play really well again in week 14. Now, Dak Prescott needs to clean it up in week 15. He has 6 touchdowns and 5 interceptions over the last 3 games. That ain't a good ratio last time I checked, Tank. Jacksonville does have the 3rd worst pass defense in the NFL. Is this a spot where Dak Prescott could maybe take advantage on the road in Jacksonville?
This game is intriguing as hell to me. And the reason why is this. So Michael Parsons, who's a dog and has the right to say whatever the hell he wants to, chose this week to talk about why Jalen Hurts shouldn't be an MVP. And to me, I'm like, okay, you barely got by the damn Houston Texans, a 1-win team at home. Trevor Lawrence just won the AFC Offensive Player of the Week. And so now you're going to focus your attention on Philadelphia, who you have next week, not this week, next week, and week just going to totally overlook them Jags. I don't know if that's a recipe for success. And you look at how the Houston Texans really didn't have too many issues moving the ball on the Dallas Cowboys. And trust me, like the Jags, they got Travis Etienne, who's one of the more dynamic backs in the league. Zay Jones has come out of damn nowhere. It's just been balling out the past few weeks. We already know who Christian Kirk was. He was the dude that they were leaning on to begin this season. They have Marvin Jones on the other side. And then all of a sudden, damn Evan Ingram is living up to his first-round draft grade, and he just smoked the damn Titans for damn near 200 receiving yards. And so you have all those weapons on offense. The first-round pick from the draft, Trayvon Walker, like he obviously stepped up and made some plays last week. They have some other guys who can play. So I'm looking at the Jacksonville Jaguars saying like, okay, you want to overlook us? You want to go ahead and worry about your division rival? When we just beat the number 1 team in our division, we have everything left in front of us to go ahead and make the playoffs and make some noise as an up-and-coming team. And you really want to overlook us? So do the Jags pull it off? I'm not sure. But when I look at the Jags plus 4.5, when I look at that over, 47.5. I like the over here, and I'm damn near tempted to take the Jags at plus 4.5 too. But I like the over better.
I like the over too. I mean, the over has gone 5-1 in the Cowboys' last 6 games. The over has also cashed in 6 of the Jags' last 8 games as an underdog. Jared, would you take over 47.5 in this spot? Or are you kind of leaning aside?
It's a good question about the total. I haven't looked much of the total in this game. Let me see what my numbers say. My numbers say Dallas right now 20. Yeah, it's kind of trending under, but there's a couple of interesting points here. First of all, Tank, the look ahead vibes at this stage of the season are so huge. I mean, next week's game between Dallas and Philly is the game, right? And I did this show last year with Ross Tucker, does a great job, also former player, understands it. And he is under the belief that there is no look aheads in the NFL. Like it doesn't exist. Like it's hard. It's so hard to win every week that it doesn't exist. And I understand that line of thinking, but I think Micah Parsons is kind of telling you that it might not be 100% true. And it is an interesting vibe for Micah because he's coming off of his arguably worst game as a pro. He was held to, I think, 1 pressure against Laramie Tunsil last week and a Texans offense that has been really bad, but Laramie Tunsil really shut him down. And overall, Cam Robinson has been pretty good over the last few weeks. Last week only allowed 1 pressure against the Titans, and the right tackle, Jawan Taylor, 0 pressure, 0 penalties. So the Jaguars offensive line, which has been kind of a mishmash of a unit this year, has started to play a little bit better. And they're going to need to this week, because you would imagine, even though Micah came out and said what he said, that this is going to be a pretty pissed off Cowboys team. And I think this Jaguars offense is intriguing to me. I mean, Trevor Lawrence hasn't thrown an interception in 5 weeks. You mentioned Zay Jones. I've got him on my list too, Tank. Double-digit targets in 2 of the last 3 weeks, 8 for 77. I mean, he's playing some of his best ball of his entire career. And you get this Trevor Lawrence, quarterback that's been kept clean now. I just mentioned Cam Robinson and Jawan Taylor doing a really good job holding up in blocking. So if he's clean and he's not turning it over, I could see the Jags really competing here. And on the other side, listen, Dak's made 5 turnover-worthy plays in the last 3 games. His adjusted accuracy was sub 70% against Houston, and that's just not good. Usually the adjusted accuracy is in your favor. It goes up because guys drop the ball and, things happen, passes get tipped, et cetera, but he has to play better. And Noah Brown was the highest graded receiver on the Cowboys offense on Sunday. That's not going to work when you've got Dalton Schultz and Tony Pollard and, CeeDee Lamb. Like, you can't have Noah Brown being your best offensive player. The other guys need to step up and be better. So I have some red flags about this Cowboys team. And the offensive line's also trending down. We're seeing some injuries at both tackle spots. Jason Peters is going to start at right tackle this week. He's been okay in relief, but he hasn't played in more than 27 snaps in a game all year. So there's a lot of red flags. I didn't bet this game, but if I were to bet it, I think I would take the points with the Jags.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out. I side with Tank in the over here just because I look at Jacksonville. They do have the 3rd worst pass defense in the NFL. They're allowing 253.3 passing yards per game this year. They've also given up 21 passing touchdowns, which is the 5th highest total in the league. And then Dallas is the 2nd in scoring over the last 3 weeks at 27.7 points per game. Jags are 9th in the NFL with 26 points per game on the season. So this could be a really good spot for an over. Let's take it to the Pats, who are heading into Jared's hometown right now, the Las Vegas Raiders. This game is also a pick-em. The Raiders laying a point. That total is set at 44.5 here. The Pats want to build some more momentum in the AFC wildcard race. They took down the Cardinals last week. They pulled away in the second half. Kyler Murray went down in that game, crying in the tunnel. I do feel really, really bad for Kyler Murray and the Cardinals, but that's neither here nor there. The Raiders, though, coming off the top 1-point loss to the Rams, and Jared's favorite new guy, Baker Mayfield, in Thursday Night Football. They blew a 16-3 lead. And Baker Mayfield got things done through a touchdown pass with 3 seconds left in that one. They're going to be hungry heading into this game, playing at home. They need to win their last 4 games to possibly even make the postseason, and that starts against the Pats and trying to take advantage of their beat-up offense because Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson, Jacoby Myers, all banged up. And the offense with them ranks 24th in yards per game. Without them, who knows? Tank, do you feel like the Raiders could take advantage of a Pats team? I know their defense is playing well, the Patriots is, but the Raiders could be hungry coming off of that tough loss.
Man, those heaters in Vegas can end just as quickly as they start, right? That was amazing to see. That was amazing to see Baker Mayfield come in like less than 48 hours and then just turn into straight shake and bake. And that got me thinking, like, can Matt Patricia, can Matty P and Mac Jones do the same thing against that Raiders defense? I mean, because they just look god-awful, man. I mean, that New England offense is just like a sight to behold for all the wrong damn reasons. And I just don't know if they can get their act together. I really don't know if I can trust them. And then talk about trust. You look at the Raiders and like, damn, they're on the road. Like Josh Jacobs, one of the better backs in the league. Devontae Adams keeps doing this thing. And then you falter like that against the Los Angeles Rams. Like, I'm glad like Jared had on like his Miss Cleo vibes from the Dave Chappelle skit because I didn't see that coming. And so that New England defense looked good. And so will Like, can they get it going against that defense? I'm not sure. Like Bill Belichick and those guys, as bad as they've looked, they're in the playoff. They're like they have the last playoff spot sold up at least this week. And so both of those teams are solid against the run. The Vegas Raiders defense, they give up the 5th most receiving yards in the game, but I don't know if Mac Jones can take advantage of that. Everything tells me the under should be solid here. But I just know that, like, if I saw the Patriots offense explode against the Vikings, they could possibly do it against the Raiders. But the under is my lean. I just don't know if I can. I don't know if I can mess with it though.
Yeah, I feel like I totally agree with you, Tank, on your handicap of this one. It's a do or die moment for both teams. This game is a pick 'em, rightly so. It's pretty evenly matched up, but the Pats are allowing 18.4 points per game on the year, which is 5th in the NFL. The Raiders are giving up only 47-ish% red zone scoring percentage at home, 8th in the NFL. And the total has gone 5-1 to the under in the Pats' last 6. Also, 5-2 in the Raiders' last 7. Jared, is this a game where you could look at the total and be like, both defenses might get it done, or are you leaning aside?
I don't have anything for this game, really, that I love.
Yeah.
I think the market is kind of fickle on the side. Open 2, Raiders were a slight favorite. It actually got all the way to Patriots -1 over at Superbook. And then yesterday, or earlier this morning, it flipped back. So a little, and again, the win, we talked about this on the show this morning, the win probability difference between -1 and +1, it's not a huge difference, even though the favorite flips and everyone's brains might, ooze out their side of their heads. It's not a huge difference in the market. So I wouldn't look too much into that, but it is fair to say that the Patriots, not the right side, according to the market. The totals steamed down from 45 and now down to 44.5 a little bit. So I think if we get to that key number of 44, that's where that number will stop. But I could see some value to the under here, perhaps. This game's all about Mac Jones, right? I think Mac indoors against bad defenses has played pretty well. Like, tore up the Vikings, played well against the Cardinals defense last week. And I trust Bill Belichick to be able to scheme up some things. I heard they stayed out west this week. They didn't go home. Arizona to Vegas is about a 4-hour drive. So we'll see what the team camaraderie vibes are. The schedule makers, I think, did them a favor, giving them the Monday night game and not making them travel back to the East Coast after that. Unlike our Buccaneer friends that played the Monday night game at home against New Orleans and then had to travel all the way out west for a Sunday game in the Bay Area. We saw how that ended up for Tampa. That's not the case here. Patriots get the short day of rest because they played Monday, but they're not traveling. So you kind of negate that. And I think that's where Belichick will scheme something that gives his team the edge. And you can't trust the Raiders after what they've done with leads in any situation. I think you're asking for trouble at this stage betting the Raiders. So I like Tank's lean on the under, and I think I would lean New England, but it's probably the only way I would consider betting this.
I know you said you don't have a heavy lean in that game, but I know you will in this Bengals Tampa Bay Buccaneers game. The Bengals laying 3.5 points, one of the hottest teams in the NFL right now. They're on a 5-game winning streak. They beat the Browns in Week 14. Jamar Chase, 119 yards, 1 touchdown on 10 catches. And the Bucs were slowly picked apart by the 49ers and Brock Purdy, who looked extremely purdy in his first career start against Tom Brady. And by the way, guys, last week, I know we talked about it, that 7 other rookie quarterbacks have made their first career start against Tom Brady. They all lost. Brock Purdy was the only one to get a win. But we're going to talk about that 49ers game. Well, we already talked about the 49ers game because they're playing tonight. But the Bucs were torched for 404 yards, and an offense only scored on 1 of 11 possessions. Their offense needs to get rolling in this game because this one has a lot of implications. The Bengals are tied with the Ravens for the top spot in the AFC North. The Bucs only ahead by 1 game in the NFC South, and we just talked about the Panthers game a few games back. The Panthers are nipping at the Bucs' heels. Who comes out hungrier in this one, Tank?
Like, what are we doing here? Honestly, like, why are the Bengals only favored -3.5? That's the only question I have in my head. Because I understand the ramifications for the Buccaneers. Like, they had the late Monday night game on the East Coast, had to travel all the way out to the West Coast just to get that ass tapped by the San Francisco 49ers. And I mean tapped, 35-7. Like, you're supposed to be the number 1 team in the NFC South, and you got waxed like that. Like, come on, man. And like, and this is the thing that really sets it apart for me. Like Joe Burrow, and I've quoted this a number of times. He said that teams tend to separate themselves in December. Good teams. And we've seen that from the Cincinnati Bengals. They had a couple of teams that had revenge on their minds against the Bengals. Tennessee Titans, Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City Chiefs, one of the better teams in the league. Cincinnati Bengals handled both of them rather easily. And so now we expect these Bengals to falter against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who just can't get right. They can't run the damn ball. The only time they connect on long, deep passes, they get called back for holding, or Mike Evans may drop the ball or something like that. So they can't execute splash plays. And now the defense is just giving up touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. Like they didn't turn over Brock Purdy last week. That's a rookie quarterback, Mr. Irrelevant, starting his first game. You can't get a turnover on him. Christian McCaffrey and that San Francisco 49ers offense rushed for over 200 yards against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. And so you mean to tell me that team is going to go up against one of the hottest teams? I don't care if you're playing at home or away, but that team is supposed to take on the Cincinnati Bengals and stay within striking distance? Like, hell no. Like, I don't know if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be able to score enough points on offense to make the total go over 44. But I know damn well the Cincinnati Bengals are going to, like, show their dominance over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and cover -3.5. That's one damn thing I'm confident about.
He's damn right. And I like that pick. The Bengals are scoring 25.8 points per game this year, 7th in the NFL. They're averaging 6.1 yards per play over the last 3 weeks. And you talk about the rushing yards that the 49ers had over the Bucs last week. Well, guess what? The Bucs secondary, they're not looking much better. They allowed 11.5 yards per completion last week in week 14. Now, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are like, hey, I'm ready for that. Tampa Bay is 0-5 straight up in their last 5 against the AFC North. Do they have any shot here? I know Tom Brady, he always has a shot, Jared, but do they really have any shot against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or against the Cincinnati Bengals?
So I know I usually give you these really long-winded, analytically driven handicaps, and maybe too long-winded. I'll make it really easy for you guys because this is literally all I wrote in my notes for this game. Bucks, old, tired, Bengals, young, hungry. Yeah. I think it's really that simple.
They want to eat.
And
nom, nom, nom.
And the matchups here, Cincinnati, I think, is better against the pass than I would have expected without Awuzie, who they lost their best cover corner early in the year. Lou Anarumo's done an unbelievable job scheming out really good offenses like Derrick Henry. And, we've seen them manage up very well against the Chiefs and, really good offenses this year. And I think this is a Bengals team that is starting to feel a lot of those playoff vibes that they felt last year, where good luck beating us. I don't care what the score is. I don't care what the opponent is. I don't care what their strength is. They've got swag. And they've got it in droves. Why? I mean, look no further than their quarterback. Goodness gracious. That guy drips swag. So there's not a lot to this besides I think the Bucs are trending down and the Bengals are trending up, and the market's told you that. This line opened Bucs -5 over the summer, and now it was 2.5 last week. You saw the results. Beat down in the Bay Area. Bengals look good again. Now it's through the key number of 3. Cincinnati's the hot side. Are you getting any value by betting the Bengals? No, of course not. The number's been sucked out of all value. But you want to bet the Bucs right now after what you've seen? No. I don't care how much value in the world is out there for Tampa at 3.5. You can't get me to bet on the Bucs at this point. No shot. No chance.
Absolutely. And also, Tank, just so you know, because you weren't on our Let's Bet It show this morning, Jared at 10:07 a.m. on December 15th said that he thinks that the winner of the Super Bowl this year is going to be the Cincinnati Bengals. I said that as a bold statement, my friend, but I kind of back it. How do you feel about Jared's statement at 10:07 a.m. Eastern time?
Like, all you have to do is just pull up a clip of Joe Burrow answering any damn question. And it's hard not to choose the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, I just saw him today, and people were like talking about like how people, say that he reminds them of Tom Brady. He was like, Tom is Tom and I'm Joe. He was like, I feel like I
So
don't just
cool.
do one thing well. I just do a lot of things really well. And I just try to get better and do whatever it takes to help my team win. And like he says it in a way where I mean, he's not lying. Like it may sound cocky as hell, but he's not lying because he's telling the damn truth. And that's what I love about Joe Burrow. And that confidence, that swag drips down to the entire team. They have one of the better wide receivers in Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and those guys. That's what I will also want to see. T. Higgins had a limited practice yesterday. Tyler Boyd, who has the finger, he had a limited practice yesterday. So as long as those guys are practicing and trending towards playing, I think that they're going to smack down the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and give everyone that they're matching here in December and January a fight. They're going to be a damn tough out on their way to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Chiefs better not lose.
Talk about
if the Chiefs lose, and the Bills lose, that AFC 1 seed is not locked up yet.
You do not want to go through Cincinnati. Yeah.
The Bengals play the Bills in 2 weeks, Tank, and they've already beaten the Chiefs. They need the Chiefs to lose one game down the stretch, and I don't know if it's going to happen. And then they need to beat the Bills in 2 weeks, and the 1 seed is not out of the question yet for Cincinnati.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting. Joe Burrow says Tom Brady is Tom Brady, and I'm just Joe. Well, he ain't your average Joe. Let me tell you that. That dude is rolling this season, and he has been playing like that dude. I like the Cincinnati Bengals also laying the points here. And last but not least, I'm just going to talk about the Bucs really quick. They rank 28th in points per game, 17.2, 21st in red zone scoring percentage at 51.4, 18th in yards per game. Tom Brady is having a hard time leading scoring drives. And with the way that the Bengals offense has been playing, the way that the Bengals defense has been playing, allowing less than 20 points per game in 2 of their last 3 games, the Bengals are the right spot, I think, in this position. Last but not least, key matchups. Titans taking on the LA Chargers. Right now, the Chargers laying 3 points. That total is set at 46.5. These are 2 teams that are still clawing and fighting for their playoff spot. But the Titans currently on a 3-game losing skid after losing to the Jags in Week 14. Derrick Henry just hasn't been on his game recently. He had 2 fumbles in Week 14. They were costly fumbles for the Titans. The Chargers won against the Dolphins last week. Justin Herbert, one of his best games of the season, 367 yards, 1 touchdown. Mike Williams, 116 yards, 1 touchdown. The Titans need desperately to win a game. They have averaged only 16 points per game during this losing skid, and they've allowed 30.3 points per game on average. Now you look at a guy like Justin Herbert and his arm strength and precision. That's going to be a really tough matchup for a Titans secondary that hasn't been very good this season. And coming from a defensive guy like you, Tank, is this a spot where Justin Herbert could take advantage of their defense, or did the Titans come out, they're hungry, and they're like, we need to stop this skid, stop the bleeding before it gets too out of control?
Hell yeah to all of that. So this may be the perfect matchup for both of these teams. Like Derrick Henry had damn near 100 yards rushing like by halfway through the second quarter last week, and they just end up getting away from it. And that's one thing that they're not going to do against the Los Angeles Chargers. Like, to me, I'm still bewildered that everyone's been focusing on the way that the Chargers were able to take away the Miami Dolphins inside passing game and like limiting those plays. But no one's talking about why the hell the Dolphins only ran the ball 19 times against that Chargers defense. It's not like we didn't see them rush the ball like over 30 times against the Browns and just rack up yardage. Do the same thing against the Chargers when the weaknesses of their defense is stopping the run. Titans aren't going to be that stupid. Like, they don't want to throw the ball if they don't have to, and they won't have to against the Chargers. They're going to get a heavy dose of Derrick Henry, and I think he'll have some success on the ground. And then if you want to flip it over to the Chargers side, like, oh, the Bolts offense is back. Like Mike Williams, my cousin Mike, oh, he's healthy. Oh, yeah, he's healthy. He balled out last week. Keenan Allen is back. They have Gerald Everett. And did we talk about what Evan Ingram did to that Titans defense? So, yeah, we have another tight end that could take advantage of that defense. And then we have Austin Eckler out of the backfield, too. We know the Titans are a little bit tough against the run, but you get Austin Eckler involved, with catches out of the backfield. This sets up really well for the Los Angeles Chargers pass game. So when you traditionally look at this game, you may be like, sometimes the Chargers struggle like putting some drives together and they kind of falter. The Titans can be a little ugly on offense, but I think this could be a damn sneaky shootout. And that's what I actually want to bank on. I want to see both of these teams hungry, saying that we still have a shot to make the playoffs. We still have a shot to make some waves in the playoffs. And so therefore they come out on fire and we get over 47. Like, that's what I'm shooting for. I don't know who wins this game because I can see both of these offenses having success. I think it end up being close, but I think your gut wants you to kind of go towards the under, but I think the more you speak about the narratives about what the Chargers have going for them on offense and how they're trending and what the Titans have going for them on offense and how they can trend against that defense, I think the over makes sense in this one.
The Bolts are 11-2 straight up, Jared, in their last 13 games against the Titans. Do you see that trend continuing, or are you leaning with Tank on the over?
I like the Titans a lot here at 3. Wrote it up for the site this week. It'll be in the column this week. It's a 2-star bet. It's basically 2 units for me. Let me weave the narrative of why Tennessee is the right side here. So Mike Vrabel is a dog of 3 points or more. He's 21-8 against the spread. And he's had a couple of those opportunities this year. They haven't gone great, but historically speaking, when he's not supposed to win or cover, that's usually when the Titans play their best ball. On the other side, Justin Herbert's 7-13 against the spread as a favorite of 3 or more. And it's just the Chargers are just a tough team to lay points with because for some reason, they don't want to release his arm talent. Like Justin Herbert had an 81% completion percentage last week, 4th highest CPOE completion percentage over expectation of the week, but 22nd out of 24 qualifying QBs in air yards. It's all dink and dunk. And yeah, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen back in the lineup is absolutely huge. I'm curious how schematically the Titans approach this game defensively. Because if you look at what the Titans are, strength of their defense is the run. They're first in rushing DVOA. They control the line of scrimmage. I wrote a line here. Jeffrey Simmons takes up more space than my Air Jordan collection, which is growing by the day, by the way. And just overall, this is a Titans team that likes to get up in you with their front 4, and they don't blitz a whole lot. In fact, they're the lowest blitzing team in the league. But Justin Herbert is one of the worst quarterback efficiency ratings against the blitz all season. So if you're Mike Vrabel and Shane Bowen and you're thinking about your defensive schemes this week, Herbert's a guy that struggles against the blitz, but you don't blitz a lot. And I'm sure Justin's watching the tape of the Titans defense, sitting back and saying, oh, this is going to be an easy. I'm just going to sit back. We're going to pick this sucker apart. Maybe this is the week the Titans break a little tendency, right? Throw a couple curveballs there. Blitz Justin Herbert a little bit, force him to get the ball out quick. Maybe stay away from those deep middle reads to Mike Williams down the sidelines and across, So I think that's kind of where I'm at with this game schematically for the Titans defense. Offensively, I think a 10-year-old could predict what the game script is for the Titans offense here, right? Like, just give the ball to the big man and let him eat. And I think they're going to have some success there. And I think the Titans are going to control the tempo in this game. And again, those curve balls defensively for Shane Bowen and Mike Vrabel, keep an eye on how Tennessee plays it. But if I was the Titans defensive coordinator, I'd be calling up as many blitzes as possible this week because I think this is the week to break tendency, even though Tennessee doesn't like to blitz. Herbert struggled with pressure in his face, and the Chargers' offensive line's been a little bit, ragged this year. So that's how I would play it. And I think at 3, the Titans are a pretty solid bet here for me.
The Titans are 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 road games, so trends definitely favor you, my friend. Let's get into some key divisional matchups. We have 3 of them this week. First of all, the Ravens heading to the beautiful city of rock and roll and the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland. Ravens are trying to remain undefeated in divisional play. They barely squeaked out a win last week against the Steelers. Justin Tucker, the king of kickers, got it done for his team and for my fantasy team. He had 3 massive field goals in that game. The Browns, I have to get one fantasy comment in all show.
Just you get one per show.
Squeak it in there.
That's it.
The Browns
start throwing in multiple then.
Yeah, totally. The Browns fell
Stir it
short
up,
of the
Hank.
Red Hot Bengals. The Browns fell short to the Red Hot Bengals. Nick Chubb was held to 34 yards on 14 carries. Deshaun Watson looked like poo-poo again, 26 of 42, 276 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Not great. The big story of this game, though, guys, is the Ravens quarterback situation. Tyler Huntley suffered a concussion against the Steelers. His status up in the air. Lamar Jackson still week to week with a knee injury. Anthony Brown might be starting at quarterback for the Ravens. We've seen this line move a little bit. The Browns now laying 3 points. Tank, without knowing who's under center for Baltimore, would you still feel comfortable taking the points with them? Or are you leaning more of a total here? Or is this a total stay away?
Let me check something out because so he didn't practice. Lamar didn't practice yesterday or today. I remember hearing someone talk about Lamar actually practicing. I was like, nah, maybe there wasn't. But actually, Tyler Huntley got in a limited practice Tuesday.
Yeah,
full
limited
practice on Wednesday. So he may be trending okay. All right, so let's get to this. Like, as much heat as we give the Baltimore Ravens, and deservedly so, because they lost a lot of close games to begin the season. Like, they're still leading their division, and they're 9-4, which isn't bad when we look at all the teams and the records that we currently have in the NFL, and we talk about the parity that we see on a week-to-week basis. That being said, Mitch Trubisky threw for damn near 300 yards in the tub against this team.
Yeah.
He threw for 3 picks as well, but I mean, we're talking about Mitch Trubisky, so that's to be expected. But he was able to sling the ball around a little bit. And even though Deshaun Watson did look like a poop emoji again last week, he actually looked like a slightly better poop emoji than he did against those Houston Texans. So I think he's trending better. And I think this could be a game where we could see some points possibly on both sides. And it was alarming to me seeing that Cincinnati was able to shut down Nick Chubb, him only having 34 yards rushing. It looks like another under. But at the same time, I mean, when you have a total at 38, I don't know if I really want to mess with that. And when you have a divisional game, you have all these injuries that we're really uncertain of. I don't know if I want to press one side or the other either. So this will probably be one where I hang back. But it should be a good game. I'll just put it at that.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually really like your play of the under, and I know it's a low total, 37.5, but Anthony Brown, if he does start at quarterback for the Ravens, they're probably going to lean a little bit more on the run. And then you look at Deshaun Watson, he's completing under 60% of his passes. They're going to rely on the run. Both teams are going to run a lot, which means the clock runs, which means less points are usually scored. And the total has gone under in 8 of the Ravens' last 10 games. Also 8-4 in the last 12 games between these two teams. The under is hit. So although it's low, Jared, would you also lean the under? Because we know these unders this season have been hitting at a really, really high rate.
Oh, Lauren, I'm sorry, but I really like the over in this game.
You're okay. Do it. Take the over. Want to swag about it? Let's do it.
No, you're gonna sweat. You're swagging me to death. You're swag surfing me to death here. All right, let's just talk big picture for a minute, right? 42 was the opening total last week, and then of course everything that took place on Sunday with the quarterback injuries and Deshaun Watson. I agree, Tank. He's marginally better, and I think if he plays marginally better this week, it'll look a little bit more like the Deshaun Watson that we know in his third game back, which I think. It's fair. He's been out for 2 years. It's fair to give him 2 games, right, before we make a judgment on how he looks big picture. Both of those games were also on the road. He's back at home now. More comfortable environment where he's been practicing for the last couple of months. But the total dropped all the way down to 37. And that's where I jumped in on the over. I wrote it up. It'll be in the column tonight that'll drop on Pickswise.com, over 37. It's a 2-unit bet for me. And I think it's going to be Tyler Huntley. And that's positive for me. And when you look at this Ravens defense, they've been pretty stacked up against the run. And I think that'll be where Deshaun Watson maybe has his say in this game. Because my guess is the Ravens are going to say, okay, we're not going to let Chubb and Hunt beat us. Beat us somewhere else, Deshaun. And again, if we get a marginally better performance this week from Deshaun Watson, I don't think the market's fully taking that into account. Again, this is a very different Ravens defense than prior years. No more Wink Martindale. They went from blitzing on like 100% of snaps to now they're blitzing on like 10%, one of the lowest rates in the league. So it's just a different scheme. And you saw them struggle down to down against Mitchell Trubisky and the Steelers on Sunday. They were very fortunate that our buddy Mitchell Trubisky threw 3 interceptions. I don't think Deshaun's going to be in that spot. I think the Steelers don't run it as well as the Browns do. And I think the Browns, even though the Ravens are really good and they've keyed in on the run since they brought in Roquan Smith, I think they're going to run it better than the Steelers did. And I think Deshaun Watson's going to play, again, marginally better. Tyler Huntley did what he had to do. Here's the key, J.K. Dobbins. You saw him return and you saw him emerge as a star. And I'll be honest, I don't really think he's going to get a ton of run this week. He only had 15 carries last week. But if he gets 20 this week, he showed the explosion, just didn't quite have the afterburners yet. Maybe not 100%. Maybe he's at 80 or 90%. But you saw the burst. You saw how good he is. And he's fresh. And guess what the Browns don't do well? Stop the run. One of the worst in the league. And Clowney and Garrett are both dinged up this week. So I could see a world where the Ravens run the ball really well. They take the lead. Deshaun Watson has to match, and they go after this secondary that's a little bit banged up. And I think this is a really sneaky good over spot. Weather in Cleveland permitting, of course. 37 is comically low. And I think these offenses can move it a little bit. And it's not like they both have lockdown defenses. Only one defense is good. So if the Ravens can match, I really think Cleveland might play a little better offensively in this game than we've seen the last 2 weeks under Watson.
It's going to be interesting to see how this game plays out. Number one out of the 3 key divisional games that we have this week. The one that I'm most looking forward to is this one we're talking about next. The Miami Dolphins heading on up to Buffalo to take on the Bills. The Bills right now laying 7.5 points. That total is set at 42.5. 2 AFC East rivals fighting for playoff positioning. Miami coming off of a tough loss to the Chargers. Tua went 10 of 18 for 145 yards, 1 touchdown. And the Bills took care of business over the Jets. Their defense played really well. Sorry again, Jared, to shit on your Jets for a second. Offensively, though, Josh Allen had 147 passing yards, 47 rushing yards, 2 scores. Let's take you back to week 3 because Miami beat Buffalo back in week 3. They played at Hard Rock Stadium. Perfect sunny weather, a little toasty in that one. This game is going to be an extremely cold, frigid temperatures. Snow flurries also on the Doppler radar. Yes, I have been keeping an eye on that. And that is big for home field advantage against the Bills. I don't know if you guys saw, did you see Mike McDaniel's shirt this week at practice that said, I wish it were colder?
Amazing. I was going to mention
a shirt that says, I wish it were colder. But the one thing for Tua is he's 0-3 in games in his career that have been played at under 45 degrees. That's going to be big coming from a Bama boy who's living in Miami now because it is warm down there 24/7.
From Hawaii.
Do the Dolphins have a chance here? Do the Dolphins? Oh, well, he's only used to warm weather.
He grew up in Hawaii, then played in the SEC, and now he's in Miami. I mean, below
he
that
ain't going north of the
southern tier.
The hemisphere. Whatever. But who knows how this game's going to play out? Tua came out and said, "Hey, it's a mindset. If I'm thinking about how I'm going to be gripping the ball or unable to grip the ball with how cold it is, that's not the right focus for me." Tank, what do you think Tua and the Dolphins' focus is in this one? Also, Mike McDaniel might be my favorite coach of all time.
Yeah, mine too. And I believe that when you just see Mike McDaniel on that video, just kind of bouncing around practice with the shirt on, that shows you that he's trying to make sure his team goes into the game with the right mindset, which I love. Mm-hmm. At the same time, like you could tell yourself all that BS about like the weather doesn't matter and all that until you step into that shit. Like I played a playoff game in New England where it was minus 18 with the wind chill. Oh and trust me, like your body moves differently. Our mouthpieces froze when you have them in your helmet in between series. Like my head coach had like this big beard and stash and like beard and mustache. He has snot sickles frozen on his face after the game. Like, so don't act like you just going into this cold weather game is going to be like any other game. Like, nah, that shit doesn't fly. That being said, we have to factor in some of the things that these teams are dealing with. I still feel like the Buffalo Bills have to get over the loss of Von Miller, even though some of those other guys along the defensive line have stepped up. I don't know if that's just going to be a one-game kind of push or if they're going to have some consistency there. And on the flip side, I mean, we know is that Tyreek Hill, the weather's going to slow him down because it's going to be a little colder. Like when it gets cold, your body just doesn't move the same. And he's also dealing with the injury too, which won't feel as good in cold weather as it does when you're playing in warmer temperatures. And so that being said, I feel like the weather, I feel like the gravity of this game may play a part. Both of these defense, when you look at the stats, they're kind of fairly comparable. The only place where they really stand apart, where Buffalo clearly has the advantage, is in interceptions. But otherwise, you look at sacks and how they play the run, how they play the pass, and you look at the stats, fairly comparable. And so with both teams scoring 40 points in the conditions that we had earlier this season, and now we have an over-under at, I saw like 42, and I see on the screen right now we have 44. If that's what the case is, I mean, I would definitely lean under in this one, just given the conditions, given what's at stake, and thinking that both of these defenses are going to try to bow up and limit these offenses, and then also having to play in this inclement weather. So that's my lane, but interested to see what Jared's take is going to be in this one.
Yeah, Jared, I mean, you look at a game like this, Tua Tagovailoa heading all the way up to Buffalo to play in the cold, flurry, frigid temperatures, but it is true. I mean, even when, like, I remember back in my soccer days playing back in Michigan, and you get hit with a soccer ball on the quad, and it feels like your leg is about to fall off your body. I can only imagine what it feels like to be tackled in that cold weather. Who do you think comes out on top?
We get to wear more stuff than y'all when y'all play soccer. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Who do you
Wild.
think comes out on top? Because 7 points is still a lot of points for the Buffalo Bills to be laying.
Yeah, my numbers have this as like a 4.5 point spread. So I do think before you make any weather-related manual adjustments, yeah, Miami's kind of the right side here. We saw it open 7.5, and it got bought down off the 7 and a hook. Even saw it get down to 6.5 at one point before we saw a little bit of Buffalo buyback. Total's been kind of all over the place. Open 48, driven down right away after Miami struggled offensively, and then the weather down to 45, then all the way down to 41, and now we're starting to see it tick back up over the last 12 hours or so, overnight into the morning, and now it's kind of hovering right around that key total of 44. So again, the magnet of 7 key number and 44 key number, it kind of rules the way that the betting markets work. That's fun. Let's get into the actual handicap of this game, which I think is a lot more fun. There is an intriguing statistic that we can't quantify every week, and it's mentality. And I don't know if Buffalo is a mentality champion as much as their odds are saying they are going to be a champion, right? Like, we've seen them hit some adversity this year. We've seen Josh Allen at times play underneath what his physical skill set should indicate. And now that they lose Von Miller, they lose a little bit of that edge defensively. I'm not saying that Buffalo is going to morph into a bad team overnight. But again, I ruled them out to win the Super Bowl when we saw Von Miller was out for the year. And it has nothing to do with Josh Allen and his talent. They need that. And now they don't have it. And there's just a little fragility, I think, between the ears with this Bills team. Whereas I think with Mike McDaniel, it's kind of the opposite. And they've hit the skids. They've struggled. Tua is being exposed. It's not a very difficult adjustment to make. The Dolphins like to throw the ball deep middle. So now, after 10, 13, 14 weeks of seeing that, Tank, I'm sure you've heard this in practice your entire career. Outside leverage. Make them go. Do not let them go deep middle. Make them go to the outside the hash marks. Make Tua throw the ball for long distances and be accurate. And he's really struggled in that regard. 10 for 28 last week. Yikes. So if you're Sean McDermott, outside leverage all day, make these guys run the out routes and the routes that Tua doesn't like to throw. And I think that's probably the handicap that I would lean on in this game. But if Buffalo can't get pressure on Tua and maybe they can run the ball a little bit, I could absolutely see this game being close. I'm a little worried about the Dolphins defense holding up. We'll see what the weather is. We'll see how much of a factor it really is. Usually the weather in our minds before the game has a bigger factor than actually what happens, but the cold matters. And this will be the coldest game Tua has ever played. And we'll get to a game in a few minutes with the Eagles that also will be played in a very frigid climate that I do expect to have some impact on the efficiency of the offense. So Tua's taking a nosedive, and we'll see if Mike McDaniel makes the adjustments. But they're taking away deep middle, and they're making Tua throw outside the hash marks. And over the last few weeks, he hasn't been very good doing it.
Yeah, Tua's coming off his worst game of the season, now going up against the Bills that have the 7th best pass DVOA in the NFL, plus the cold weather. There is truly no room for error for the Dolphins and their offense, but at the same time, you can't count out guys like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, right? The Bills average 31.2 points per game at home. Tua, again, is 0-3 in games under 45 degrees, and the Dolphins 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 road games. So trends are favoring the Bills here, but the Dolphins, 7 points could be a lot for them to be catching on the road with the talent they have on both sides of the football. Last but not least, in the key divisional games, we have the Giants taking on the Commanders in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. The Commanders laying 4 points in this position. Total is set at 40. NFC East teams both fighting for wild card spots. Giants down in the dumps after their loss to the Eagles in Week 14. They gave up 437 yards and a 75% red zone scoring mark. That ain't good. They want to get back on track after that one. The Commanders coming off of a bye. They're going to be rested. They tied with the Giants back in Week 13. Terry McLaurin had 105 yards, 1 touchdown on 8 receptions in that game. This game, guys, was flexed to the Sunday Night Football primetime position for a reason. They both need a win in Week 15 to help them get closer to locking up a playoff spot. Washington, I feel like this could be a good spot for them playing in front of a home crowd. The Giants haven't won on the road since October 23rd. Does that change on Sunday Night Football, Tank, or do the Commanders keep rolling on the hot streak that they're on right now?
LJ, the New York Giants are giving up over 180 rush yards per game over the past 4 games. Thanks. Like, the only way that I can really break this down for you is that I feel that for the past few weeks, every time they finish a game and then they turn the page to their next opponent, they see a picture of Nasty Nate looking at them. And if you're not familiar with Nasty Nate from Half Baked, on the calendar in his orange Speedo, getting ready to take somebody's cocktail fruit, that's what the New York Giants are looking at on a weekly basis. The Commanders have been one of the better running teams in the NFL over the past month, and I expect that to continue. They weren't able to win the game last time, but they ran the ball effectively, and that's going to be the determining factor in this game. Really, I'm not going to bet whether the Giants or the Commanders can cover. I'm not going to bet the over or the under because this is an NFC East divisional game, and it's hard to determine what a team is going to do, especially when we're talking about the Giants and Commanders. But one thing that I can guarantee is that the Washington Commanders will go against the New York Giants, look them straight in the eye, demand and take their cocktail fruit.
Exclamation point, dot,
we gotta
dot,
snort.
dot. He
We gotta
is
snort.
pushing that in there. I absolutely love it. Jared, your thoughts on Tank's handicap?
I haven't gotten a snort from LJ in months. It's been weighing on my mind. No, I'm telling you, I keep track of them. It's been a while. I haven't gotten a snort in a while. So, and again, it could just be you making the adjustment of not snorting as much on air because let's be honest, that's an adjustment that I would probably try to make. But you let it fly for this, and I think that's noteworthy here. Well, if I gave you my cocktail fruit every day, Tank, then I wouldn't get my vitamins, right? And the Giants the Giants have not been eating their vitamins of late. I think I had to go there. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. I could quote that movie all freaking.
It's a great movie. Great movie.
666. It's been rough sledding for this Giants team. And I think offensively, I don't really know where you turn at this point. Because Daniel Jones continues to be on the struggle bus when it comes to diagnosing things. Mm-hmm. And you saw what that Eagles offense did on Sunday. I mean, I love the under in that game. And I thought maybe we'd see a little bit of, de-throttling from the Giants and especially the Eagles once they had a lead in that game. But the special teams flukiness and the Giants dropped the punt and then tried to kick it, and it like went like it was ugly at all three phases of the game: offense, defense, special teams. It was ugly, and it's been ugly for about a month or so. The problem is these games have historically been very close. The last game ended in a tie. Mm-hmm. So I think it's hard for me to lay 4.5 points, where I agree with the Washington handicap, but the number matters a little bit here at 4.5. And that's why I personally wouldn't bet the game, but I would also personally be shocked if the Giants ate one morsel of cocktail fruit in this game, because I think it's going to be a physical beatdown for the Commanders. But these games have been fluky. Yeah. And you put it in prime time now, and I think there's better spots on the board this week, even though I do think the Commanders win this game.
Yeah, the Giants haven't beaten an NFC East opponent since November of 2021. So it's been over a year in that spot. I like the Commanders with that. Isn't that crazy? The over could also be a good play here. Both teams have gone under a ton this season. 40 points were scored in Week 13. They logged 727 total yards of offense, but the teams had a hard time finishing their drives. And if, they finish at least some of the drives that they had in that Week 13 game, that total would have gone over. They combined for 7 of 27 on third down attempts. Giants are used to scoring at a 61.5% rate on their red zone possession. So I feel like the offenses might get going this time. It could be a good spot to maybe lean the over. But again, it's a divisional game. You never know what's going to happen. I feel like this is a really good spot for the Commanders, though, just because the Giants have been struggling and the Commanders' recent success.
Weird scheduling spot, too. Sorry, LJ, but the Commanders had a bye, and they haven't faced anyone in between. Like, it's like a weird fluky spot.
All we've had to focus on the last 3 weeks is the Giants. Like, they know that playbook in and out at this point. Yeah. If you're on the Commanders. So
very good point.
Last but not least, let's get into Monday Night Football. We have the Rams taking on the Green Bay Packers. The Packers laying 7 points at home at Lambeau Field. The total set at 39.5. The Rams coming off of a massive win against the Raiders. Again, Jared's guy, Baker Mayfield, under center through a game-winning touchdown pass in the final 3 seconds of that game. The Packers defeated the Bears in Week 13. They had a bye week last week in Week 14. They're feeling pretty well rested, and that was good for Aaron Rodgers too, who was also a little bit banged up after getting hit in the ribs a couple weeks ago. The Rams are basically out of playoff contention at this point, but Baker Mayfield has something to prove because that dude wants to be on a roster next year, right? For the Packers, their defense has been solid, 8th best pass DVOA in the NFL, only allowing 192.9 yards through the air per game. This is going to be a tough challenge for Baker Mayfield coming into Lambeau, and it's always a tough place to play in the winter. Another place like Buffalo is going to be cold. Who do you lean in this spot, Tank?
Man, are we going to get another dose of a little bit of shake and bake? Huh? Like, I don't know, man. It's crazy. I thought this dude was dead to rights going to LA, the second largest media market, on 48 hours. I thought there was no way in hell Sean McVay was going to play him, and that if he played, that he would have any amount of success. And then this dude pulls that performance out of his ass. Like, I have no idea how it happened. But I think that wave may have just like hit the crescendo and crashed out of our line sight. I have what am I trying to say? I have line sight.
Eye line
and
line of sight.
Yeah, eye line.
You got it.
Out of line, out of sight.
Yeah, I think I combined the two, the eye line and the line of sight. So we're doing the eye line of sight. But Perfect. Regardless, what I have my sights on is on Sunday night when they go against those Green Bay Packers, who are somehow still in the playoff hunt after we found out that they still own the Bears, and now they're coming off a bye week. It seems like Aaron Rodgers in that offense is heating up. And now the team from LA has to go play in the cold where we know they don't really perform that well. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like, honestly, and it's weird, like Baker Mayfield and Aaron Rodgers are like damn near the Spider-Man meme at this point. Like they're just kind of poking at each other because like people were like kind of down on them to start the season and just talking mad trash about them. And now all of a sudden like they're back hot again and now they're in this primetime game. But both of these teams on a similar trajectory. Both of them have a similar scheme because Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, same coaching tree. Honestly, the Green Bay Packers should win this game. Am I going to lay the -7 on the Green Bay Packers? Hell no. So am I going to touch this game? Hell no. But am I going to watch to try to hopefully see if some stuff blows up in the process? Oh, most definitely. And so that's what I'm here for, with my popcorn ready. And my line of
Got the popcorn, baby. He loves to see it. I will say the Rams are 0-4 against the spread in their last 4 games at Lambeau. Each of those, they lost by 8 points or more. So the spread of 7 maybe is not going to be too much. But again, this is a different Green Bay Packers team than what we're used to seeing in recent years. And I don't know if I'd feel comfortable laying the points, Jared. Would you?
I kind of do, just to shut you guys up with getting you guys off my back with Baker's Jared's guy, Jared and Baker hanging out at the club together after Baker beats the Raiders. That didn't happen. But I can tell you that there was a sighting of Baker Mayfield at the club partying after the Raiders win.
Of course. I mean, why wouldn't he?
Of course.
Yeah.
But I don't know. If it was me, I would be back in my hotel room studying that playbook that you've only looked at for 48 hours. But hopefully that's also happening. I'm not saying that that's not happening. But
yeah,
let's be honest. Interesting look right after the game. Going right.
Hey, dog, he's in LA. He pulled off a big win, and you got to ride the wave, dog.
He's right.
Like I said, that wave may have crashed while none of us were looking. It may have crashed at the club after the game, but ride the wave.
That's kind of where I'm going here, guys. And you know me, Mr. Contrarian, right? When you think I'm going to zig, I'm going to zag, right? Baker's my guy. I love Baker. Take the 7. Nope, we're fading Baker this week. I'm going to lay this 7 with Green Bay. I haven't bet it yet because we might get a 6.5. We might get a 6.5 because the public is going to be all hot and heavy on Baker. Oh, look at what Baker just did. Oh, Baker this, Baker that. Yeah, that's usually when you fall off the wagon. Schematically, there's really not much Green Bay does defensively that I like in this game. They've been really bad defensively all year, but they're coming off the bye. You can make a case they're a little healthier. And they look at the rest of this NFC and they're like, why not us? So I could see them playing. Let's just leave it at this. I could see the best of Aaron Rodgers transpiring. The cream tends to rise at this stage of the year. I wouldn't be shocked if Aaron Rodgers' best 4 weeks of the year came the next 4 weeks. Just wouldn't be. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if all of a sudden Aaron Rodgers played like Aaron Rodgers. He has a week off to rest the thumb. Extra night now with a Monday night game. He's got basically 11 full 14, 15 days off to rest the thumb. Sorry, math there was difficult. And the Rams, listen, they've got a mini bye too. They play Thursday. That gives Baker extra time to learn the playbook. I think that's a positive for him. But if you want to tell me that he's going to play better than what we saw last Thursday at home in nice, warm, cozy SoFi Stadium against the Raiders, then what is going to transpire at Lambeau Field where the temperatures are going to be about 10-ish degrees. By the way, the coldest game Baker Mayfield's ever played in, 34 degrees. And he lost that game against the Ravens. So this is going to be a significantly more unique experience for Baker outdoors at Lambeau Field. I really like the Packers in this spot. I hope we get a 6.5. We'll talk about it on Monday, LJ. But I think Green Bay is the right side here.
Packers are 8-0 against the spread in their last 8 games against the Rams and 6-1 in their last 7 against the NFC West. So the trends do favor you again, my friend, as Tank is just going to be eating his popcorn in that game. That will be exciting.
No, we're going to get Tank to the window on the Packers in this game. That's going to happen.
We'll see, Jared. We'll see. Let's bet it.
You've heard me talking about the Packers in those big spreads all year.
That's true. How about we tease the Packers?
Yeah.
A little tease for you?
Yeah, we did.
A little tease?
Maybe.
That makes sense.
Maybe. Something to stew on. Let's bet it.
Tease the Packers in the over. There you go. Have fun.
Oh my God, you guys, let me read our promo, please. Both of you.
Sorry.
Just kidding. Let's Reddit. It's presented by our friends at Superbook Sports. Go to superbook.com or download the app today. And this season, guys, we are all rooting for safeties. That is because Superbook will give you a $50 bonus on each safety scored this season. Just place a $100 pregame bet on any spread or any total. And if there's a safety scored in any game on Sunday, you get a $50 bonus. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. All right, it is that time of the day, the end of our show, but time for the best bets for week 15. Tank, who you got?
It seems like every time we have a show, I'm always going to bring up one point just because I love it so much. So my best bet is going to be the Indianapolis Colts at Minnesota. I'm going over 47. And you know why? I have full trust and faith in that Minnesota Vikings offense because Justin Jefferson is that dude. Dalvin Cook is a monster. Adam Thielen showed out last week. Kirk Cousins threw for over 400 yards. I understand that I'm talking about the Indianapolis Colts offense. Matty Ice, who's one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the league. Matty Ice, that if you have an opportunity to take an interception prop on him, you might want to go ahead and get to the window ASAP because more than likely he's going to give you one. But that being said, this Minnesota Vikings defense is one of the most trash defenses that I've seen as long as I've been watching football. They let Mac Jones throw for damn near 400 yards and a few tubs against them on Turkey Day. I'm still bringing up that game, and I'm going to continue to talk about that game. And then Jared Goff and those Detroit Lions asked them what did the five fingers say to the face, and then they showed them. And so as long as you have a Minnesota Vikings defense playing like that, I have no trust, no faith in them. And even though they want to go ahead and secure the NFC North title, and they may this week, I have full confidence that Matt Ryan and that Colts offense is going to be able to put up enough points for us to cruise over 47 points comfortably.
I like it. I like it, Tank. Jared, what do you got? Week 15, best bet.
Yeah, we're gonna look the bull straight in the eyes again and see if we can't get this one right. The only bet that I didn't hit in my column last week was the Eagles-Giants under. And I'm going to go back to the well here with the Eagles and the Bears under 49. And the handicap is relatively similar. Philly, you want to tell me there's not a look ahead? Fine. I think there's a little bit of a look ahead. And especially the week before, we saw this with the Dolphins against the Texans the week before facing the Niners. They just don't want to put a lot on tape. That game was a hellacious blowout, so that really didn't matter. This game is being priced as a blowout at -9 for Philly, but the under at 49, listen, this is going to be a really cold weather game. Temperatures in the low 20s, high teens at Soldier Field. Jalen Hurts has never played a game in temperatures this cold. Justin Fields, illness this week, assuming flu-ish symptoms, non-COVID illness. We'll see if he has his lungs about him. Obviously, he's a big part of the running game as well. Chase Claypool banged up with a knee injury, so the best weapon for Chicago is a little bit banged up as well. And again, for Philly, get the lead and get out of Dodge because next week is the week. So you go back to the well. I love doing this. You make a handicap last week, didn't work out, special teams flukiness. Go right back to the well this week. We're getting a little bit of a better number here. Under 49 Eagles Bears. It's a 3-unit bet for me. It'll be in the column later tonight on Pickswise.com. That is my play of the day, best bet of the week.
And that is it for us for week 15 of Pickswise Playbook. Make sure to find us on Twitter, on Pickswise.com. Follow us on YouTube. That is Tank Williams. That is Jared Smith. I'm Lauren Jabbar. We'll see you guys next week for week 16 action. 4 weeks left in the regular season. Peace.